With 11 days to go until the midterms, President Trump is back on the campaign trail, back in the saddle, if you will, tonight as federal authorities continue to investigate the man charged in connection with the mail bombs that were sent to prominent critics of the president. Well, Trump spoke to reporters before leaving the White House, blaming the whole situation with negatively affecting Republicans' momentum heading into November. He's totally partisan on this. He reiterated his tweet from this morning in the middle of the night that Republicans are doing so well in early voting and at the polls, and now this bomb stuff happens, and the momentum greatly slows. News not talking politics. Very unfortunate. What is going on? Republicans, go out and vote. This is the President of the United States in the middle of the night. We're joining right now Sahil Kapoor, national political reporter for Bloomberg Politics, and David Corn, of course, Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones. Both of you guys, start with you. The president seems to be unaware he's head of state, that he's the head of this government, head of this country, the personification of this country in a way. Like it or not, he is us. And we have a national tragedy of this proportion, which could have been horrific if these bombs had all gone off. One of the blackest days in our history. And he acts like, ooh, somebody got me off course of my message. They're screwing up my plans.
Well, he's saying, I think, what strategists are privately thinking, but he is the president of the United States with the responsibility to lead the nation in this crisis. I think he has a tendency sometimes to talk about his own presidency as if he's a casual observer rather than the man at the top making the executive decisions. He attacks the Justice Department. He attacks the Fed. These are supposed to be independent entities, and he's expressing his own frustrations, which he has a tendency to do, rather than speaking on behalf of the government.
Well, doesn't it screw him up to see the amazingly successful effort by the FBI and the ATF and everybody else to find this bad guy? Lickety split. I found him giving that speech. I will give it to David on this. Isn't it amazing to see the president reading the teleprompter, talking about how great the FBI is after months and a couple of years now, practically, of trashing the deep state, the federal government?
It's like he's drinking castor oil. And I have to say, I mean, Sahil was very polite. But what we have with the president here is a guy who just doesn't care. He doesn't care about the rest of the country. He doesn't care about bringing people together. He cares primarily about himself, and therefore he cares about people who support him. And he will keep doing this thing. He did it this afternoon. He did it this morning. He winks at his supporters, the paranoid conspiracy theory people. You know, he reads a speech, but then he says bomb in quotation marks, as he did this morning,
okay,
because they then say, we know when he's reading a speech, that's not what he really means. He's still on our side. So he's playing footsie with this stuff through this tragedy.
You know, Sahil, as if the bomb stuff is an interruption in the script he had for a reality show. My reality show dictates we talk about the caravan. Okay, but that's his show. Somebody interrupted that. It's like this bomb stuff. Like somebody walked onto this set and started screwing with the script. It's not like that's reality, that the bombs are real. They were triggered to go off by this guy who agrees with his politics. Oh, this is getting in the way of my script. What is reality to Trump?
Twitter Trump today was different than speech Trump today. You know, Twitter Trump was, he had bomb and scare quotes. He said, what is going on? As David kind of suggested, maybe playing footsie or sending a signal that conspiracy theorists will look at and perceive in their own way. Even if he's not specifically saying it was a false flag, there will be people who look at tweets like that and think that's what it is. But in his speech, he talked about unity. He talked about peace and harmony. There was just a real disconnect there. And, you know, you wonder what he's really thinking.
These people think that we didn't go to the moon. Neil Armstrong never went. It was in some West Hollywood studio. They hooked this thing up. They're real nut jobs. Anyway, a new USA Today Suffolk University poll found that 43% of registered voters approve of President's job performance. 54% disapprove. No surprise. That's within the zone. But when you look at the intensity of voters' feelings, it goes against Trump nearly 2-to-1. 44% of all voters say they strongly disapprove of Trump. 24% strongly approve. David, I think that's fascinating because strongly means you're going to show up.
Well, it does, and I think that's what Republicans are worried about. And I think what this episode shows is that the people who strongly disapprove of Trump do so because of the way he behaves, his divisiveness, his hateful rhetoric, and this whole week, despite those few speeches he reads when he gets it right, he is still out there being Trump and dividing and trying to divide and conquer. He'll do that before the election occurs. So I think this event only plays to his worst instincts, not his best, and will only fuel those poll numbers that you just cited.
You know, he had a group of young African Americans stay at the White House, and I'm all for that. I'm for any outreach effort by any politician in any circumstance. Don't just play to your crowd. But does anybody believe that?
Well,
does
they're black
anybody believe that's
conservatives.
representative?
He's certainly playing to his crowd. But look, Chris, the million-dollar question is that those numbers you just cited, those strong disapproval numbers, is that going to translate to votes? Because if it does, Democrats have a shot at winning this state, Nevada, in the Senate race. They have a shot at winning Arizona in the Senate race. They have to have strong turnout among people who don't traditionally vote.
There he is. Excuse me. President Trump is speaking right now in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he's addressing today's news. Let's listen.
I want to briefly address the packages and devices that have been mailed to a number of high-profile individuals. As you know, the suspect has been captured. Great job. And is now in federal custody. These terrorist actions must be prosecuted and punished to the fullest extent of the law. We all know that. And I want to applaud the FBI, the Secret Service, and all state, local, federal officials for their incredible work in this investigation. I mean, they did an incredible job.
There he is, Sahil, bragging on the federal agencies that he dumps on all the time. They are real. Look, I worked in Washington. I have worked in Washington almost a half century. There are real people that go to work every day who just want to do a good job. They're not. There may be a secret lefty out of every 5,000, but they're all basically public servants, and everybody knows them. They work at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the FBI. I have a relative from the FBI. Why does he keep dumping on people that are doing their job actually better than most people in the country do? They really do perform.
He has a long tendency, as we said, to attack these institutions, to attack parts of his government. I think that's just his way of doing things. I think that's just who he is. He doesn't see himself primarily as someone who is overseeing this entire government. If he thinks something about it, he'll just say it.
Somebody once said people don't do their best work when they're being peed on. This guy does that to public employees all the time. All he does is dump on federal employees, FBI, everybody, as if they're the enemy of the people, like us.
Well, he
Why
sees
does he
them
do it?
he sees them as the enemy of Trump, the enemy of oversight. I mean, that's what he doesn't like. He doesn't like accountability or oversight. He doesn't want to be questioned. He does believe that his election was tainted by Russian intervention.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.